today. Parts of the night. It's pretty dark outside now. It is dark out.
I mean, we're waiting for the next round of daylight savings.
Yep, it's November 6th, November 7th. I looked it up sometime. I thought it was before Halloween, but I guess I was wrong because Halloween is coming up. So
Halloween is Sunday.
Yeah, Halloween Sunday, people. So, hey.
Savings time 2021, November 7th.
Hey, I was right.
Next weekend.
I made it.
Weekend. Next weekend.
Next weekend. Next weekend, people. Roll back your clocks. So lean back now.
Let's do it.
Lean back now. Lean back now. Lean back now.
Let's do it. Let's have fun. See all those things. All right. Good evening. Welcome. It is episode 106 of Scuba and The Ry.
Yes, sir.
So here we go for our normal weekly shenanigans and conversation.
Shenanigans.
If you come and join us live, that's awesome. We appreciate you. If you're watching this on VOD, thank you.
We still appreciate you.
Yes, we do. We still do. But yeah. So daylight savings time, November 7th. Can you believe it's already been 6 months?
Yeah, it's been a while. So November's almost here. So that means 2021 is almost gone.
It's so weird, man.
Yeah, it is kind of weird because I remember last year and forgot about it because I don't want to remember it. And
a lot of people don't want to remember it. People want to just pretend 2020 just never happened.
Yeah, it never happened. I even still remember 2019 when I got walked across and got my degree, and now it's almost 2 years later. So. Yeah, time flies by, people, and you just think about it. You just have to think about it.
It does. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Fun times, my friends. Fun times.
So, yeah, it's all the crazy. I don't know what.
Super crazy.
So, what we got tonight? We got a couple of movie reviews.
Yes, couple.
We're going to talk about Halloween Kills.
Stabby.
And we're going to talk about the new adaptation for Dune.
It's all about the spice, baby.
So I actually watched both of these movies, so you get to hear my opinions on both of them this time, not just Ry's wonderful opinions. But so we'll get to that in a little bit. Of course, we want to thank Sirenscape for the background music and soundboards.
Thank you.
Go to check out sirenscape.com for more information about that. Also, if you're enjoying this and you want to support us, please don't forget to hit the like, hit the subscribe, and hit the bell notification.
Like, subscribe, ding, 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 ding. In a way.
Best way to support us. Also, don't forget to share this with your friends and family if you think this was enjoyable. And if you want to do more, there's some links in the description below, or you can head over to patreon.com/scuba studio. So, over there. No, over there.
No, over there. There. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. There we go.
Right there, people. Right there.
Patreon.com/scuba studio. Consider being a patron. We do a couple of exclusive things for patrons. One of them is an after show that we go live with after the main show, where we continue to chat about what we're chatting about and what other things are going on.
Yes, sir.
Alrighty. So, what you been up to, my man?
Well, it's been a minute. But over the last few weekends, went to an Oyster Fest. It's raising money for schools. We got to party with an old friend on a big seafood buffet. You can definitely talk about that. Birthday party over this last weekend, celebrated 1 year old of a close friend. So happy birthday to the 1 year old. And Sunday night went to another concert, this time at the Norvo, which is a local venue in downtown Norfolk. Got to see one of my favorite bands, Angels and Airwaves, and I was actually surprised because I did not know the opener was another band I listened to called Bad Sons. So it was a 1-2 punch.
Nice.
And I just loved, it's just very, very great to just be back at live shows. Just to quote the guy from Bad Sons, live shows are back, so let's just rock on, baby. So that's what he said. So it's fun. So that's pretty much it. Other than that, busy training, school, I have to do a presentation this week. So I had my papers out looking at them for a little bit, but I put them back because I don't want to be stressed about it. So that's all I got.
Yeah,
but you had some fun and wild times, along with partying with old friends.
Yes, got to hang out. Old friend of ours was in town with his missus. former coworker. He's actually the guy who gave me the name Scuba.
Scuba.
So yeah, last week we decided to forego the podcast and hang out with him over at a local seafood buffet and just kind of chill and hang out. And gotta say that was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. It's been a minute since I've been to that restaurant, but that's not even the important fact. It's an amazing minute to get the group back together, or at least most of them.
Oh yeah, got the band back together and hung out. What do you think about the restaurant? Now, the restaurant I went to is called Captain George's. It's one of those. It's kind of a medium-priced place. Yeah, about $50 a head to go there and eat, and it's all you can eat seafood, crab legs, and a bunch of other seafood stuff. I gotta say, you know what? Doing the crab, had the Cajun crab. I think my biggest complaint is the fact that the shells were so soft. You couldn't really break them easily.
Yeah, I noticed that. I don't eat crab legs a lot when I go there. What's up, Q?
Hey, Q.
But when I go there, I go after the clams because I love clams. So it's unlimited clams.
Dude, I think you filled the whole bowl of just clam shells.
Yes, it was like 2.5 plates of clams. But yeah, I think I know that about the crab legs. I enjoyed the food. When you think about what you pay and what you eat, you kind of eat what you pay, so I'm okay with that.
That's fair.
It's a 60-item buffet, and I'm not a fan of buffets. I really don't like buffets, but Captain George's is like one of the only buffets that I would go to. So I had to pick.
Texas Day Brazil, which haven't done that one in several years.
Texas Day Brazil is more of a unique buffet because they bring the food to you.
You're right.
So,
you don't have to get up and walk to the line. You just have to sit there and wait for them to come around.
And they'll be like, meat? Yes. This meat? Yes. So.
But yeah, I think overall it wasn't terrible. I mean, but I mean, for the price and the fact that you can get crab legs and things like that, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like I said, once in a while treat. I have no problem paying it because it's only once in a while. So.
Oh, my wife had never been there, so it was real nice for her to check it out. So
she enjoyed it. I was glad. So
she had a good time, and then we hung out and had lunch later in the Thursday as well, just for hanging out, which was good. It was real funny when we went for lunch. It was like a bunch of us were there, and we all ended up ordering burgers of different. Basically the same burger.
Didn't you go to a steakhouse?
Yeah, Longhorn Steakhouse.
And you ordered burgers.
What was on the lunch menu?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess so. Why not?
And we had our friend Fresh, who got to hang out with her, because normally don't hang out with her outside of work. But she came and joined us, and then our friend Notes, so that was all. It was all good to do that and just kind of chill, and then some errands. My dad bought a new computer over the weekend. So I went over to help him a little bit with it on Sunday, and he had to. The computer my stepmom uses for work, and she has to have the Windows BitLocker enabled.
Okay, understandable.
So I told them Saturday night, "Hey, turn off BitLocker before I come back over here on Sunday." They weren't sure what that meant. And they didn't ask. So when I got on Sunday, I had to turn BitLocker off. Now, for those of you who don't know, BitLocker is a encryption software that Microsoft releases with their Windows operating system. It's only available on the professional and higher versions. But the idea is it encrypts the entire hard drive and creates an association between the hard drive and the motherboard. If you replace either component without turning off BitLocker, you've essentially made a brick out of both of them.
It's just a door stopper now, people.
So but you have to, the thing is, if you turn it on and it goes through the process, and then when you turn it off. So as I was trying to explain this to my dad, because even though he did electronics in the Navy, he's not a tech guy. Yeah. You know, he's not a tech guy.
When you mention electronics, it's not always the same.
Yeah, it's not like computers or circuit boards and stuff like that. He used to be able to really do those well, but he doesn't do those now. Anyway, so I had to go and turn it off. So then I sat there for a couple hours waiting. Eventually to the point, I'm going to go home, eat some dinner and whatnot. And if you want, I'll come back and we'll see how that goes. Cause I really don't know how long it'll take. Yeah. Because we turned it on 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go, people.
So it was, and I was trying to explain to him, the analogy I explained to him is you think of encryption like dominoes.
Yeah.
We've all seen those images of the dominoes where they're all stood up
Yeah.
And you have these really intricate patterns. The encryption is where you knock over the dominoes and you see it just all go down there. So when you're decrypting it, picture it as you're standing each one of those back up. And the more data you've used on the hard drive, the more complex the domino pattern.
Okay.
So once I explained that to him, he was like, damn, that's going to take a while. I was like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Figure it out,
Yeah.
Pops. You got this. I believe in
So
you.
he called me yesterday and was trying to upgrade to Windows because once he got it done, we were going to drop the old hard drive in to the new computer and then turn it back on so he could use that.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't get it to boot to the new hard drive, so he upgraded his. And when he ordered it, he didn't get the Pro version on the new SSD drive he's got.
Okay.
So put it on so we upgraded to Pro, and he was having some problems. So I went over there last night to help him with that. Got it all set up and ready to go. And my stepmom just had to reinstall some programs that I couldn't get turned back on after the hardware transfer. But other than that, that was pretty much it. The other thing is we're starting to plan a road trip.
All right.
I'm going to go to Madison, Wisconsin to visit family for
Should be
the
fun.
U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. And I'm going to take my Jeep. I'm not going to rent a car this time.
Okay.
I've been back and forth on that, but decided to go ahead and take my Jeep.
The Jeep is capable of going.
Oh, yeah, it should
That
be.
far?
I've got an appointment. I went to do an oil change today.
Okay.
And they do oil changes express. And then when I asked them, hey, can you check this, and this? And they're like, do you want to leave it here? Because we're really short staffed. We don't know how long it'll take. We're actually scheduling appointments 2 weeks out right now.
Okay.
I was like, oh, let's do the oil change now because it's been bugging at me to oil change, and we'll check this other stuff and do a quick trip check so that I can drive the 1,000+ miles to Wisconsin. And so it's like 2,000-mile round trip, give or take.
Yeah, it's pretty far.
But it's weird how many places are still so closed and short staffed. Have you seen a lot of that?
I guess it just depends on where you go. I haven't seen it everywhere I go. Just parts and places. But it's just the trail of the times.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I go to do the oil change, and there's a McDonald's next door, and they do like the steak, egg and cheese bagel.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I order this because I know it's not good for me.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah, forget it. Just get it. Just get
I
it.
only do it when I go to the shop to have work done on my Jeep.
It's right there. Why not?
Yeah, I'll walk over there because I know they're going to be working on it. Well, anyways, I went to do that, and I walked over there, and the lobby was closed, so there's no dining room access. It's all drive-through. So, all right, forget it. Go back. And then when I get the Jeep done, I'm like, well, I'm going to grab this bagel because, this is my routine.
Yeah.
I get in there and I was like, hey, do you have this? And they're like, no, we don't have any steak anymore, and we don't have any bagels either. And I was like, well, have a nice day.
Yep. I mean, I've gone to places and they've had, either certain supplies out or they change things out. But short staff, I guess it depends on where you go. There's a Popeyes over on Lynnhaven. You know which one. The dining room is closed. I don't know if it's because of short staff or they just don't want people coming in.
Well, the Popeyes down the street here has the dining room open.
Yeah.
But most of the other places, because they don't have their high school staff or their college staff, all their dining rooms are closed.
Okay. So
I
did notice that. But, it's just coming out of the crunch, and then at the same time with a lot of people being out of work during that lull time of the year to be forgotten, people find other ways.
Well, my dad and I
to
were
get
talking
income.
about how it's really weird how the service side and the hospitality side have got such the shortages in staffing.
Yeah, it is really that because I know my industry and company is hiring a lot. So it's just a matter of where
Well, I mean, these
shifts
are
are happening.
I think these are the ones that definitely have a valid thing to say about when it comes to working conditions.
Yep.
I mean, we've all done those jobs when we were younger.
Yep, I
Most of
have.
us.
I have at a bakery, not a fast food, but close enough.
Yeah, but that service and hospitality side, yeah, those working conditions suck.
Yep. You get paid a certain amount, whatever it is, but there's high stress, sometimes angry customers, and can borderline on violence. You've seen those videos out there, people. I know I have.
And the worst thing is like these are supposed to be stepping stone jobs anyway. Well, you do this and then you move on. That's the plan.
You get it. Move on, you know.
So you've got to do that, but you know,
Yep.
But yeah, so planning this trip, getting some stuff together because haven't done the trip in a while. Yeah. Everywhere, staffing shortages, working staff, changing jobs to pay increases. It's weird to see like signing bonuses for like Wendy's.
Oh yeah, you know, whatever way to get people to come in, it happens. I have seen those signs too.
I mean, I'm thinking about, you know, some additional side work to cover some expenses, but you know, I guess if I get my business organized and caught up, I probably make more money doing this, but yeah, I'll get there.
It's all hearsay. Yeah.
Yeah, forget about it.
Forget about it. So your trip.
Yes, we're gonna go and we're gonna drive. And you know what I didn't? And this past weekend was a convention called Gamehole Con up in Madison.
This coming week or
this last weekend?
Okay.
Past weekend.
Okay.
And it's like I had no idea that was a thing, and until you know saw some posts for some people I follow who are in the D&D space who were up there hanging out for that, and I'm like, you know, if I had known that ahead of time, I might have planned my trip for this past weekend instead of
you know, give and take.
Give and take. It's all good. There's still the discussion about going to PAX Unplugged in December.
Yep, it's a contemplation. Definitely a heavy contemplation. It's really ain't that far. It's right there, literally.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like I didn't realize Indianapolis was so close either when I was looking at the map, and I was like, man, I could have gone to Gen Con.
Yeah, I think with Indianapolis is about an 8-hour drive. I'm throwing out numbers.
16 hours roughly to Madison.
I know it's 14 to Chicago because I've done it. So
yeah, I don't like driving through Chicago. I'm not looking forward to driving through Chicago, nor am I looking forward to driving to Wisconsin in November. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Well, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen, but definitely going to Philly, possibly, and then also thinking next year. It's like, yeah, we're gonna hit Gary Con and back and forth a couple of trips. Flying is I don't know. I can't see if flying would be a cheaper option than driving.
It really isn't in a lot of cases. Like when we go to Florida, we drive. It's way cheaper than flying, and we can pack our car with what we need.
No, I think the other thing is consistency for the airlines. Like with all the different canceled flights and stuff that have been going on, and seat prices. Like obviously, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to be comfortable in economy class anymore. So it's like, do I really want to spend $1,000 on a plane ticket for a weekend or a couple tanks of gas and the wear and tear on the vehicle?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was debating that too on doing something to Montreal. So it was $500 round trip, or I could drive.
No, it sounds like Q's got some recent experience with Chicago. It's been a couple of years since I drove through Chicago.
Yep, I know about the toll roads, and I know about the broken payment. That is very true.
I'm looking forward to the toll road. Now, I don't like the way Illinois does the toll road. Let's be fair.
Do they use PayPal? Or not PayPal, Easy Pass?
Yes.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. When you drive, like I'm planning to take the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Okay.
Which will go through Pennsylvania and Ohio into Illinois.
Okay.
Now, with Illinois, with Ohio and Pennsylvania, once you get on, you don't pay the toll again until you cross the state line or you get off. So it's one fee.
Yep. That's how it should be.
Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
When I did Chicago, there were 24 individual toll charges, and I did not get off the interstate at all.
Yeah, that's kind of cray-cray.
Just a little. Just a little. But I'm...
So...
Being in control of the itinerary, driving is nice. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that either. But I was looking at it, it's like I could take a route that goes around Indianapolis but I have to drive over West Virginia, or I drive through Pennsylvania. Like West Virginia, I just don't like driving through those mountains. So I'm going to go Pennsylvania.
It's fun driving through those mountains, but I can understand.
Yeah. It's a little rough. Yeah, Chicago fees are everywhere. Now, granted, when I paid the toll on the Pennsylvania Turnpike and the Ohio Turnpike, it was like $10.
Yeah.
But then again, I only paid it when I crossed the state line.
Yeah, one time.
Chicago, it was like $1 here, $1 there, $1 here, $1 there, and I was like, where did all these charges come from? Because I didn't turn off. I followed the route, and it was like wild.
Yeah, well, it is how it rolls, but you know.
But we're gonna give ourselves 2 days to drive, and then 2 days to drive back.
Okay.
So we'll hang out for 3 days, drive back, and good to go.
That should be a fun time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, there's some people up in the Wisconsin area I can touch base with, and for a brief moment, because I now know more people up there since my last trip.
That's always a good thing.
If not, I understand it'll be the holiday weekend, so may not have that opportunity. But on the same token, when I go out there for GaryCon in March, that will hopefully be a better experience.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about these movie reviews. We've been rambling on long enough.
What do we got on deck first?
Well, let's see. Let's start with Halloween Kills.
Stabby.
This is the latest in the Halloween franchise of the Michael Myers slasher films.
Slash somebody's tires.
This one is set to be like a direct. The events in this film happen right after the events of Halloween, which was released in 2018.
Correct.
So as that movie ends, this movie starts.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, slasher films and horror films I'm not big on. Especially not. Some of the like the older ones were campy, and I do like how the revival of the slasher films over the last decade have been a lot more cinematic,
more character driven, more meshing of genre. So it's not just horror, but horror and coming of age, horror and psychological, some kind of mix.
And then there's this guy,
Stabby.
So if you're not familiar with the franchise, this is essentially this kid who, in the first Halloween film, back in the 70s or 80s.
1978. And just add a note, it's considered a continuation from that one too. So it goes from 1978, 2018 to this one right here.
Yeah. So there's this whole conversation of this kid who killed his babysitter, got put into a mental institution, broke out of the mental institution, and just started killing people at random.
Yes, sir.
He seemed to. Is it just me, or does he seem to? He avoided killing kids, but adults and teenagers were fair game.
They were.
So,
we are analyzing.
Yes,
thank you for asking.
We are analyzing this. I hadn't watched many of the Halloween films. I'm obviously a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s. I'm familiar with Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees. I've seen a few of the other films.
Hellraiser.
I haven't seen a lot of these because these seem kind of boring to me, because it's literally the dude wearing a mask, walking around, and just and then all the classic tropes of, oh, there's somebody in the house. Leave the house. No, let's go in and investigate. You're an idiot.
Yeah, but that is the thing with horror, is that horror is very, it's branching out into various different subgenres, but at the same time, horror can be flawed because of the way they write characters and situations, because it plays on the stupidity of archetypes, which happens a lot in this film, I will add.
I will submit to the court the Geico commercial for horror films.
Yeah.
It's literally that crazy. But, I get how they want to try and do this. There's a suspense element to that for this guy who just casually walks behind you and just happens to pop up when you least expect it.
Some, plot device, teleportation devices, but, hey, horror, stabby.
Yeah, that's how this works.
Yeah.
Now, watching the trailers, this kind of felt like the town had finally got sick and tired of Michael Myers and it was going to go after him for a change.
So let's rise up, my friends.
And it sounds great. The trailer really sells that.
That's what good marketing does.
However, the reality is this movie was horribly disappointing.
I would say I'll take out the horribly because I don't think it's a horrible film, but it was disappointing, especially if you watch the 2018 film. So
yeah, I haven't watched the 2018 film, but I do like the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis is back.
Yep.
She's not just the scream queen that she's known for. There's actually, there seems to be some methodology to her character. I like how you have this familial generation thing with her daughter and her granddaughter trying to take out Michael and all of that. And I thought that was really kind of cool to kind of modernize the slasher film where these female leads are not just the scream and eye candy. They actually, can kick butt.
Damsel in distress, aka, but that's the one good thing. And the one thing is that was very strong in the 2018 version, because the 2018 flipped the script on the damsel in distress and chasing the women, where like Larry Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, was going after Myers, and it sets up what happens in this one. As it picks up after is Myers survives the onslaught from Larry Strode's, and now leaving that scene with triumph that she hoped it would be, it turns into hopeless folly where he's emerged and he's just journeying around town wreaking havoc on all the residents.
Yeah, no, he goes straight from wherever they was back to his childhood home. It seems like everyone in this film, that's where he always goes back to. It's like, wait a minute, this guy's been terrorizing your town for 40 years. Who the hell hadn't figured out that if you want to find him, go to his house?
Yep, but he was locked up for a long time and then escaped. But
he always goes back to his house.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's very central to his caricature to go back to his house, but along the way he takes out a few people. Quite a few people, I might add.
So it's So there are elements of the film that's good, like this. It explores the whole the whole thing with mob mentality.
The mob mentality is definitely what I consider the high point of it, and the film does a good job of introducing theoretical situations as well as the psyche of humans who have been burdened by certain things, aka this town being haunted by Myers. So it preys on that emotional core, but they don't really do much of it, but they'll start out with that emotional core, and then the characters just turn into tropes that you find in every horror movie known to man. So, and that's where I think the downfall happens. They begin with something, and they just fall into the trap of characters here, do something stupid, stabby, stabby. That's pretty much it.
I like this. Q in the chat sits there and says, why don't they have a realistic Michael? Shouldn't he have arthritis or a walker at this point? I was thinking of that about the end. I was thinking about that at the end of the film. It's like, because I'm hoping that, we've seen this with Freddy, we've seen this with Jason. At some point in the film, they kill the character. They retire the character. It seems with Myers, they just can't seem to get to that. And I was thinking, because I like the idea of it finally being, what, we've had it with this character. Let's take him out. Let's stop letting fear control the town. Let the town control the fear. And this is one of the few highlights for this film.
Yeah. So
is the fact that it explores this concept of fear and how if you give in to fear, fear manifests in a way, and you can't really destroy fear with force. But I think it seems like that's a great idea, but the execution of it, not so much.
Yeah, you said a lot of the stuff I was going to say.
Sorry.
But no, I have a lot more to add onto that. You're fine. But like at the central of that idea of building on fear is that it focuses on all the characters in the film outside of Laurie Strode, like Tommy, the young kid that she babysit in the first movie. You have the assistant to the doctor. You have a lot of characters that they are witness to that 40 years of terror, but instead of just falling in the trap of, oh my goodness, they actually use it to bring force against Myers, it just doesn't work out because it just leads into that trap of horror tropes and freneticism of action. But there are very much hyperboles of the consequences of that idea, evil, and they keep emphasizing that fact with Myers. So when things happen, it just becomes lazy writing and a fixture to set up something to go on. And you know that they're setting up for something going forward because they announced it already. This is a part of a planned trilogy. There's going to be another film called Halloween Ends. So even though you're setting it up, at least try to put some character, even if you know what's going to happen.
I didn't know this was supposed to be a trilogy.
Yeah.
But even with this being a trilogy, this middle one absolutely sucks.
Yeah, I'm not even going to lie. I agree with you totally. It does bog down. It's fun seeing the kills because some of the kills are very creative, but even so, setting up to the kills is very lethargic.
Yes, it's very lethargic. It's very much like in the fact that he has to survive to the end.
Yeah.
And all of that, but it doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel earned on the antagonist part. The story doesn't feel earned on the protagonist part. I mean, this one you spent a lot of time with some exposition in conversation.
Yeah, that's the one thing I hate in movies is conversational exposition. There's a way to do it to make it organic.
And then there's a way to do it where it's forced.
Yep. And doing it organic, we'll talk about that in our next review. But for this one, it sucked. Especially if you watch the 2018 version where you would like the 2018 version because it plays on those tropes but makes everything earned with the kills.
No, that's good. I like that. I don't know why this one just decided to, phone in the performances.
There was one thing where people were thinking maybe they were trying to play on a satire of it, but it just didn't come across that way.
It doesn't. I mean, it's not. I mean, I watched it and was like, the whole time I'm like, all right, let's take him out. Let's take him down. We are sick of your crap.
It just doesn't work out because evil.
And it's ridiculous. Like, seriously, I'm going to hold a 44 Magnum and I'm going to get up in your face before I pull the trigger. Hell no. I'm going to stand back at a distance, line up and shoot.
How about you take off your shirt and you grab the smallest knife on the table to go after a man who can rip your eyes out? So, yeah. That's not a spoiler, but
moments where it's just like, really? And you notice how the police did not, and people with tactical training did not go after Myers. It was all the townsfolk.
I find it funny because what I find funny is that the police were just, you know what? I give up.
I mean, one police officer out of that whole film was going after Myers, and he's the one who, from 40 years ago, had a child killed. But none of the other rest of the law enforcement were actually actively going after.
Yeah.
Now, and I mean, there was a couple of really good scenes where it's like, all right, let's see how this goes. And yeah, it goes poorly, but you really kind of hope it goes well for the first part.
There was like 3 or 4 deaths I appreciated. Because I just wanted some people just to die. I'm sorry.
and to be fair, I've got to critique Strauss's house setup. She really should have planned that whole demise much better than she did. But you have to watch the film. If you want to watch the film, it's in theaters. It's on the Peacock streaming platform. If you have Peacock Premium, which is like $5 a month, you can check this out.
What's your rating?
I'm calling it a 2.5 out of 5.
So a Friday night rental.
If that.
Okay. So I'm a little bit higher. I say even though there's a lot of disappointing sequences, I'm more of a fan of horror. So I do like slashers, and being in the theater and seeing it, it does raise it just a little bit. So 3 out of 5. Watch at theaters, but take it with a grain of salt.
Right.
It's not as good as the 2018 version. I can guarantee you that. But we move into the land of spice.
Yes. For our second review, let's talk about the latest rendition of the Dune property, the Dune franchise. And this one was released in theaters and on HBO Max. I watched it Friday night because I was really excited to see this.
Same thing, Friday night.
And it was like a 3-hour film because it had a ridiculous runtime.
Yes.
This one was really good.
It was really, really good. So this film, if you don't know, is based on what's his name? Frank
Herbert.
Frank Herbert's novel of the same name, published in 1965. And the story, in a general sense, it is part one of that novel. And it centers on a prestigious family known as House Atreides. And it picks up on that house being commanded by the Emperor of the known universe to govern over the planet Arrakis, which was governed by another regime, but was suspiciously was suspiciously pulled out for them to command. And what you find out is that a lot of this maneuvering is tied into the overall politics of the great houses, and at the center of it is Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet, and it focuses on him trying to find a way to save his family, the planet, and others that are gripped by this tyrannical regime by the Emperor.
And now, of course, this is the exposition for the overall book and the story.
Yes, sir.
In this film, which covers roughly half of the first book, maybe a little bit more,
I'm not sure.
Movie does really well in setting up for future films.
It does a great job of laying that foundation.
As this is great epic storytelling.
Yeah. So when you watch this film going in, which I mentioned before about conversational exposition being done organically, you can do it terribly organically, and in this film they do it very much in a very organic fashion, where everything is brought to you as you're brought into this film through a drop-in method. You're not just being exposed like, here's this, here's that. You're watching the world as is and enveloping into the political landscape of these great houses, of the planet Arrakis, and the certain element of the planet that is needed to control and navigate the universes, which is known as the spice.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's the resource that everyone wants, the planet that people want to govern, and then the other politics and how people, and we can totally get into a lot of the politics of the story. This is really good, but this film is nice because it's nice how we have the technology to tell an epic scale story.
Yes.
Now, this was originally done in the there's another version of this done in the 80s, which I'm sure we're all familiar with.
By David Lynch.
And then at some point between the 90s and early 2000s, there was another short miniseries called The Children of Dune. But the biggest thing right now is comparing this film to the 1980s edition from David Lynch. Now, David Lynch's film tried to tell the entire first book in a single movie that had a runtime of about an hour and a half.
And he's famously have been quoted that he did not read the book and just took elements of it and did whatever he wanted. So
that, and a lot of the film is voiceover and exposition through character monologue.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, and that one I think is a product of the technology for filmmaking. Then you fast forward to this film, which gives you these grand, gives you a sense of scale when it comes to these various planets.
Yeah.
Like the planet that the House Atreides was on before they went to Caladan, before they went to Atreus, or I'm sorry,
Arrakis.
I don't know why I said Atreus.
Because we were talking about the family. Yeah, so
House
Atreides.
So they went to Arrakis, and I mean, you get a sense that okay, there's something not right as the political thing, and I like how the conversation. This is where we were talking about in Halloween Kills. Exposition is forced in conversation.
Yeah.
In this one, exposition is organically in the conversation, and
very much of a layered approach because it's never fully explained, but it's exemplified or brought through awareness.
And the casting on this is just top notch.
Yeah, there is a lot of recognizable actors and actresses in here.
Just looking at this, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Zendaya,
Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård. There's a lot of big names in this film.
And every one of them, when they're on screen, totally owns it.
Yeah, they do a good job in this film of balancing between the sweeping aesthetics of different worlds, the expositional lore building, and individual character parties. Because what you see at the central focus of this political strife and planetary rebellions is the focal center of the hero's journey. And at that point, you see Paul Atreides, who's very much in a tug of war between being the son of a great house, but also being the son of someone who commands what is known as the voice. So there's this balancing act between that within familiarity, but there's a newness at the same time because you are ingrained into the story because of this feeling of being the audience avatar, but at least also being a person of his own degree.
Yeah, I like how this one, you kind of sense there's something going on.
Yeah, there's a slow build of something going on, but never explained.
You just see it as it happens.
Yeah.
So it's nice how you have that drop in and go in, like, they're the political stuff. Like when you're listening, you pay attention to the conversation, you realize, okay, there's some political shenanigans going on.
Yeah.
That will hopefully be explored later.
Yeah.
In the film, in the series. And this is one of those that I wrongly assumed that this was the start, that they had several of these in post-production already, that they did kind of the Lord of the Rings mentality of we're filming back to back to tell this story, and then we're just going to release it on like a yearly cycle till all the films are out. Turns out, no, as of today, the sequel for this was officially greenlit, considering it had a very successful box office weekend.
For, a day-and-date release, it made 40 mil in the US, but it's already topping 230 mil worldwide.
So it's definitely worth it. And I like how we have, and the thing is, it feels self-contained, but it also feels like the beginning of a journey.
Yeah. So it does, like, that's what's the beauty of this film. Like you mentioned, just the sweeping landscapes, or the sweepiness of just the world, not just planet Arrakis, but all the universe. And the way the dialogue is written, it like what you call dropping in the tea leaves. Like you're sprinkled in with knowing and growing along this familiar journey, but at the same time, it's very unique, very subdued, but also has a sense of character gravitas with what may or may not happen.
Yeah.
So even if you know the material, it still gives that puzzlement of you're not really sure. You still don't know.
I have to admit, seeing David Lynch's version didn't really interest me in the property much, other than some actor recognition. But after watching this, I'm probably going to pick up the book on Audible just so I can listen to the story. Because it feels like this one, they did a lot more focusing on the story, and the visuals in this are absolutely stunning. And Skarsgård playing the Duke, and he's just creepy.
Oh yeah, it plays upon familiar or not familiar, but recognizable elements of sci-fi. But you are just drawn into the factions and the eeriness of that house, and the downright things that they do, downright wrong things they do with House Atreides. Because it's just funny how you can see things happening, but at the same time you're just like, arr.
And it's amazing how the more things change, the more they stay the same. People are afraid of political power. This is a house that is garnering more and more political power because they operate in an honorable fashion. And the people at the top are worried about being usurped, even though you can clearly get the impression that the current leadership of House Atreides has no interest in anything so grand.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the implementation, anxiety, fear, just the eeriness of, hey, I don't want this to happen, but the actions that you've set up and the pieces you move, you're pushing it to create that action of that rebellion, not only for the House Atreides, but for the freemen on the planet. They already don't like you, so now you're teaming up with another group that doesn't like you. Yeah.
I think that's also a nice approach when you talk about when it comes to an indigenous population and then foreigners coming in, and how the approach of some foreigners can, and did two different approaches. Like the house that was there previously, which has the Duke. I can't pronounce their name, but they were there and they were thinking that they would wipe Harkonnen would like to try to wipe out Freeman.
Yeah,
but
they want the resource, that spice.
Well, even so, it's like they're getting the spice and whatever, but they want to wipe out the Freeman. Now, Atreides, on the other hand, is like, you know what? This is their house.
Yeah, and they want to be partners.
So that difference of approach is really good, and I like how it makes you scary to think about what would happen if Atreides, actually had pulled this off, and not had to deal with this, this backstabbing they deal with.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that even with that familiarity of a like triangular effect with the politics, it also shows that layering of, hey, you might be my ally now, but not tomorrow. Especially the way the House Harkonnen are playing both sides, and it's kind of funny on how they're playing both sides, not through overt actions, but through commerce and dealings. I'm not going to give too much away, just knowing that they make financial dealings more sinister than what you expect.
I like that a lot about this. Is there's a lot more political intrigue in this film, in this adaptation, other than the stylized films telling of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. So it's just great because they take even things that are very cliche with sci-fi, but they're balanced and leveled with essence of relevancy and weaving in the prophecy of what the reality is of this journey.
Yeah. So I'm calling it a 4 out of 5.
Same thing.
I enjoyed
4 out of 5
so much. I would not be surprised if this got a couple of mentions at the very least for when the awards time comes around.
I can see it garnering some nominations, especially on the technical aspects, maybe on directing, because Denis Villeneuve, if you don't know the guy, he's directed some amazing films: Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, Sicario, Prisoners. Very dark and driven films, but at the same time all different. Yeah. So
and visual effects wise on this is great. I mean, it has arguably one of the most iconic sci-fi creatures in film, and they did it and they made it look absolutely terrifying.
So just to add note, like you said, they greenlit the part 2 for 2023, but if you didn't know, there's also a TV series that he's working on that's going to be a spin-off from this called Dune: The Sisterhood, which is going to focus on the lives of the Bene Gesserits.
Yes, and they were the ones trying to orchestrate some other political game in the background,
which adds even more amazingness to it. So, look forward to that TV show. I think it's going to be on HBO Max.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
So we got our film reviews. I mean, I like this. I like Dune. I thought about rewatching the original prior to the show tonight, so a little bit of pressure in my mind. But
I don't think I want to torture myself.
No, I'm good. I think I'll just go with the novel.
Yeah, just do the novel. Don't kill yourself on an adaptation, which isn't truly an adaptation, only by name. Sorry, David Lynch. I like a lot of your films. I'm not going to go back.
No, we're not going back to this one. This one had some really kind of goofy things. So, I mean, we're not even talking about Thing. We're not even going to go there.
So, what else?
There's some interesting comments in the chat. We were discussing this. It seems a lot of 80s movies are being revamped. Nostalgia is nice, but wonder if there's any original ideas in Hollywood. That is an ongoing argument that there are no original ideas in Hollywood anymore.
Well, and on the fact of you can't just say revamping and remakes. There's so many of them because
a lot of films are remade and elements. Like, look, we were talking about this prior to the show. Dune as a story influenced so many other sci-fi properties.
It came out in 1965, and if you watch the movie, just various sarcasm from a lot of people I know that watch it would just saying like, "There's so much Star Wars ripped off." George Lucas has mentioned that Dune was a heavily influence on it. So when you see the mentions of the voice boys and the Jesuits and the political wranglings. Of course, you're going to see a lot of Star Wars stuff in it because it was influenced by it.
Right.
But going back to like remakes and revamps and stuff, that does happen. And the only reason it seems like Hollywood might be out of ideas is that those are always propped up in the front, whereas in the back, most of the time there's 600 plus films released every year, and in the back is where you find all those indies and stuff that you might not be thinking about because they're not on display, aka 2 films that I want to see coming up, Last Night in Soho by Edgar Wright and The French Dispatch by Wes Anderson. So if you think about adaptations like Dune, you got 2 other films that are original coming along the way.
I mean, there are original ideas, but you don't see a lot of original ideas making it to big budget blockbuster positioning like
they don't make the money.
And like right now, I mean, the Marvel films are pretty much it because Marvel's got this property they've had.
Yep. They can just churn them out because they laid the foundation of quality. So
definitely, there's definitely a quality difference there. Not to mention, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what you said about bringing back 80s properties, a big one coming back next month is Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Can't wait.
Getting a lot of good buzz, and I'm looking forward to it, especially how they are making it a true sequel to the original.
Well, I mean, come on, it's a family affair at this point.
Yes, it is the grandkids. So.
Well, it's the grandkids, but it's also the fact the film is directed by Ivan Reitman's son.
Yep. That's what's a great thing. So he knows the property.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be really interesting to see. I can't wait.
Jason Reitman is a great writer. If you've never seen Up in the Air, check it out.
So I'm definitely thinking that's going to be a good one. But real quick before we go, let's talk about something else. Speaking of nostalgia.
Which one? Are we talking about music?
We're talking about the music.
All right. There is a big birthday that happened just a few days ago.
Yeah, that is.
Did you get the link?
I'm not seeing it in the show notes.
I put it in the Book of Face.
The Book of Face.
I can bring it up real quick.
Yeah, throw it in the show notes, please.
Okay, I am doing it. And while you're doing it,
so we found out that 20 years ago, this past week, the Apple iPod launched.
October 23rd, 2001.
Wow.
That is 20 years ago. You said show notes, right?
Yeah, please put in the show notes.
Okay. Edits? I already have edit. What are you talking about, Ryan? I don't know. I'm talking to myself, people. I apologize. There you go.
That's okay.
I put it in there. There you go. Should be there. Yeah. But yep, 20 years ago, maybe not this date, but 3 days ago, 20 years, the Apple iPod was released. And it is a very big celebration because the Apple iPod was a revolution of its sorts at the time. Not only did it put more music in your hand, but at the same time, it also helped usher in a new era for Apple. It was released on October 23rd, 2001, and since that date, according to New York Times, they have sold over 400 million iPods. And the tagline.
I mean, I have to say, this was their the marketing they did for this was spot on.
Yes.
When it came to the shadows and the dancing and all that.
Yeah. And just knowing at the time, when it came to music, you had your radios, your CD players, your Walkman. So when it came to, you can have a device, and the tagline was 1,000 songs in your pocket, it worked wonders on the music industry. Not only creating new ways of purchasing music, like the Apple Store, iTunes, it also helped lead in ushering in MP3 downloading, like Napster and LimeWire, and it actually legitimized downloading and putting music on the go in greater masses. I still have my iPod and it still works.
I still have one. I believe it still works.
But they still make iPods today, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, the iPod Touch. So it looks like the phone, but it's just the touch screen.
Oh yeah, that was their last model iPod.
So
I mean, they might have a re-release they do for this, but still though, the iPod, that was so huge.
Yeah, it was a revolutionary because you had another way to carry music. You can actually mix and max a playlist of your own kind. Instead of just making a mixed CD tape, you can have mixed playlists. Not to mention...
Well, I mean, with MP3 files and then this thing, and then also remember back then we had the one of the original competitions was the Microsoft Zune versus the Apple iPod. Clearly, we know which one won that battle, but I still have a Zune.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. I was thinking Zune, but I got the iPod instead.
Yeah, I went with the Zune because that's I was trying to be all Microsoft, and then I got into all Apple. So
yeah, it happens.
But yeah, Countdown to Depression. Yep, makes me feel really old at this point.
Okay. Yeah, it does make you feel old because a lot of times when you think about things from 20 years ago and stuff, I just feel like it's just around the corner and just feel like I just experienced it not long ago. We were just talking about how quick 2001 is finished. So, yeah, time flies, people. Time flies. So.
Really wild. So, real quick, some other odds and ends stuff. What else we got? Scalpers in Japan.
Yes, article from that was actually provided by one of
our friends in our Discord channel, because there's a Discord channel for posting odds and ends stories, which is where Ryan posts all these stories.
Crazy, unique, and fun sometimes.
This one put in, it's like, with the newest consoles, people are always trying to scalp them to make some money off the consoles.
Yeah.
Well, this retailer in Japan decided to get this retailer in Japan tried to curb that by now putting the name of the purchaser on the box.
Yep. So retailer Nojima Denki would imprint the full name on the box while also opening and removing the DualShock controller box inside. And while the ink, quote, used to write to name could be wiped away, the grooves would imprint on the box and would be difficult to hide.
So that's how they're trying to combat people scalping it, or it's like, oh, you bought it, then you're reselling it.
Yeah. So
pawn it off as a brand new instead of a used or something.
Yeah. And the reason that this works in Japan is because scalpers over there like to remain anonymous. So putting the full name on there just puts exposure on their dealings.
Which is fair. I mean, I really don't like the fact that you have this problem right now, but people will take advantage of a way to make a quick buck.
Oh yeah, they always do, people.
So, and then speaking of the Far East, there's also this bus ride for the sleepy.
Yes,
what's up with this?
An article out of NPR. In Hong Kong, they have a bus tour that apparently puts you to sleep.
It'll put you to sleep.
So, quote from NPR, a Hong Kong tour company noticed patrons falling asleep on its buses and recently launched a 5-hour, 47-mile ride to nowhere. The company known as Yule Tours hope riders will find it a snooze fest, end quotes. So, tickets range from $13 to $51 a person, and depending on upper or lower deck seating. Riders also, quote, get a goodie bag with an eye mask and earplugs. The first ride started Saturday and it's sold out. That is just awesome. Hey, if you need to go to sleep, take the bus ride in Hong Kong.
I mean, to be fair, how many of us were a passenger on a long trip and just nodded off?
High five. Right here. Yep. Rode a train from Lorton, Virginia to Sanford, Florida. Yes, I passed out.
Just that rhythm of the movement. I could totally see that. And let's see, our last story for tonight, before we end up, is going to be another one because Halloween is this week. And we were talking about slasher films. How about The House from Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yes, The House on Nightmare on Elm Street, as reported by Deadline, is up for sale, but it's pretty pricey if you want to get it.
All right, how much is it going for?
All right, the house located at 1428 North Guinness in Los Angeles is going for $3.25 million.
$3.25 million to buy a house that they film slasher films, specifically Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
But we need to advertise it in a way that you would love it. It is a Dutch colonial house. 3 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, 2-story main house, has walnut floors weaving through archways and an open retro modern kitchen. built-ins and grand primary suite bathroom in suites to every bedroom, with a separate laundry room and multiple work from home options. That sounds delicate. Stabby, stabby.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm in the house they did for Wild Bill from Silence of the Lambs went up for sale.
And the house from Amityville Horror went for sale too.
So yeah, I'm not surprised, but figured that's a nice thing. If you're interested to buy a house in LA, there's a house you can try and buy.
There you go. Yep, if you're in the LA market and you want to feel nostalgic, there you go.
But yeah, Q is selling us yeah, and strange claw marks all through the house. Totally character building.
Oh yeah.
And don't forget those marshmallow steps as you try to climb the stairs every so often. And don't forget the window on the front door, which is suspiciously small but big enough to pull an entire person through.
How is that possible? Tell me. Do you know? Is it worth the millions to might die in your sleep? Well, head to Los Angeles, where there's a house for sale just for you.
Or go to Peacock and HBO Max and watch the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise in its entirety.
$5.99, so it's a lot cheaper. There you go.
All right, well, with that, thank you everyone for watching and hanging out with us today and listening to this. You're awesome and amazing human beings.
Ramblings.
our random ramblings. Remember, again, also, if you enjoyed this, please hit the like, hit the subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification to be notified when future videos come out. If you want to support the channel, it's probably the best way to do that. If you're enjoying this, you can also go to patreon.com/Scuba Studio and check us out there. A shout out and a thank you again to Sirenscape for the background music. We had some spooky horror audio in the background when we weren't talking, so hopefully you got to enjoy that. If you're a Patreon member, head on over to Patreon to check out the live stream for Patreon only after show.
Right there.
Yep.
Right there, people.
So we'll be doing that here in just a moment.
Stabby.
Everyone else, enjoy your holiday Halloween goodness this weekend. Watch out for guys in white masks and jumpsuits and people with claws on their hands. And remember, wandering in the woods near a place called Crystal Lake is never going to be good. Have a good one. Get your candy. Enjoy yourself. And we will see you on our next episode. Good night, everybody.
Peace. Stabby.